I am unashamed. What about you?
Welcome back to Unashamed podcast. We still have, as you can see, no Jase. He's
No Jase.
out on assignment. I always tell the audience that when Jase is not here, we're letting him. So he has to build up some new stories, and all he really has to do for Jase to have a story is just walk around and live life, and things will happen to him that happen to no other person ever.
That's right.
I mean, he's like a magnet.
But are they really happening?
I don't know. I have no idea. He could be making all of it up, and
I don't think he's making all of it up, but I do think that it's what's the word I'm looking for?
You think he's embellishing?
Maybe stretching the truth just a little.
Well, it's always I like he stops at a convenience store. I stop at a convenience store every other day, and I put gas in my vehicle. Nothing happens. Like, it's just gas in, you leave. With him, someone accosted him, someone yelled at him, someone, it's always like something happens, even on the most mundane, tracks with Jase. It's always something. And so,
I mean, I pull up on the side of the road, and just because I got my hand on an AK-47, I mean, people don't walk over it.
Yeah, something about that AK.
I wonder why.
Something about that AR on your lap.
It's so inviting, It's like
so. Zach, you weren't here, but so a week or two. I think the episode dropped last week, but I'm trying to figure out where we are now. But we did an episode that when you were not with us, I was in Gulf Shores, but Dad told the story about him going to Jersey Joe's daughter's wedding because he decided, like, late in the game to go.
That was one of the amazing things. It amazed me.
And so I laughed that this story was 8.5 minutes long. Speaking of stories, of Dad telling about him going to this wedding, which he didn't know where it was exactly. He knew generally where it was. Yeah. And his mindset was, well, Louisiana's not that big of a state. So he just takes off like, I find it. And an hour and a half later, he did. He crossed 3 parishes to find it, talked to a police officer, got sent.
I'm leaving now. And the road I chose to leave on, I was going along and I saw some trucks and cars over there. I did a U-turn, pulled back up there, and on a post it said,
Amanda.
Happy wedding. And what was that girl's name?
Amanda.
And I said, Amanda, I think that might be the girl. So I asked somebody to pull up there. I said, is this a place going to be a wedding today? They said, you've come to the right spot.
Oh, I told
so you had no directions or anything. You just started driving.
And of course, he has no phone.
Started driving.
And so he just started driving. And so he knew it was around Farmerville. So I
went north of Farmerville.
Almost to Junction City, Sterling.
East of there. I went over on the left over there. And the final blow was I'm leaving. And that was the road it was on, about 3 or 4 miles out of town. It was out there in the woods.
Did you make it in time for the wedding?
He did. He was 10 minutes early, and he still beat Mom there, who had left an hour before he left.
And she come in and said, how in the world did you get here? I said, well, it's a long story.
I told Joe, I told Joe after we recorded that podcast, I said, Joe, you've got to tell me what you were thinking when you saw Dad, because he just told me the story on the podcast about what happened. Of course, he was thrilled. He looks at Dad like his spiritual father, because he mentors him.
That's what he said I was.
Yeah, and so it meant a lot that you went, Dad, to Joe, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just impressed that you went to a wedding. I don't think you made it to my wedding. Of course, it was in North Carolina, but now Kay was there. Al, you were there because you were.
I was one of the officiants. And, of course, Zach was a comical wedding because he forgot the ring back in the dressing room and left it in his pocket of his jeans. So when it came to the moment of, do you have the ring, of course, Zach just has this panic look on his face because he doesn't have it. And then Jill's dad reacts because he's sitting on the front row. He realizes that Zach doesn't have the ring. He threw his head back, hit the candle that went back in the other people's lap. We were now turning into like one of these shows. One of these videos.
Comedy of errors.
Yeah, comedy of errors. And so we just kind of faked the whole ring thing to get through that part. So I forgot about that, Zach. That's right.
Yeah. The line was, with this ring. And I said, with this ring, and whatever the next line was. And he goes, And I trust that you do, because I had no symbol of or token of my affection.
So how many years was that? 20, what? 3 or 4?
21 maybe.
So, and now your daughter is getting married this year.
Yeah.
So I haven't asked you about that on the podcast. How do you feel about that?
It's I feel good about it. I mean, it's
he's a good young man. I mean, he's very impressive.
He is.
Yeah.
He loves Jesus. He's in the production business. I have not hired him yet. He's
got to prove
you got to go. Yeah, go make your own way. Let someone else prune you, and then. But no, he's working in Nashville. Layla's doing music now. She did she's working with Sadie, who was on our last podcast.
Yep.
By the way, we need to have them on to talk about their music. But and so then she did a internship. Her and Max did an internship this summer with Shane, and they cut an album. I think it's coming out in next month. So we'll maybe have them back on too to talk about that. But
yeah, we've never
crazy
had
when
your
your kids get
on
married.
here. We should do that for sure.
We'll do that.
So
we'll have Max and Layla on and talk about music. But yeah, it's good.
Well, Max
I'm
is,
very proud
I
of her.
won't lie, Max, I love all your kids, but Max is my favorite because he's the only LSU fan in the family.
They seem to have grown up so rapidly.
I know, it went by fast. I mean, I thought the same thing because it was always just little stair-stepper dashers, and now they're out singing and married. But that's what happens, Dad.
Amazing.
We're getting old. That's what happens.
Well, I was down there with Phil last year. I got in the truck with him. We were driving to the podcast studio where you guys are sitting now, and Phil said, I think you were 76 at the time, and you said, we're just driving. You said, Zach, let me tell you what I've learned. That was the fastest 76 years I've ever lived. I was like, it just hit me. It was that moment where you're like, yeah, but it is. It's fast.
I saw his kids and they were grown, and I'm like, good night.
Yeah, and so talented, which is a blessing. So I wanted to talk about the movie because we got some guests coming on the podcast later. And while I have Zach with us, it's official now, and we mentioned this already once, but I wanted to let the audience know again that November 3rd is when you can buy it digitally. Is that right, Zach?
Yeah, you know how when you get on Amazon or you can purchase it and watch it from home,
right?
Before it's available on rental, and if you purchase it, then you have it in your digital library forever. So I don't.
So if it works out well, once it goes on the internet, what percentage of growth that is? What is?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Do we know that? How does that?
Is that 10%? Say, I'll tell you what, I'll look at it here.
I bet it's more.
Now. I bet post-COVID, way more people probably download movies than used to.
I think so. I think it'll probably be more people will see this post theatrical release than they did in the theaters.
I would agree.
Which is really encouraging. When you think about the message of the movie. So. And a lot of people, that we've talked to, because this film was super impactful for a lot of people. I mean, it's that there's no question about that. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of people are like, I'm going to buy this DVD so that I can give it to somebody for Christmas that I think needs to have it. So I think we'll probably do better than most.
It may surprise
movies.
you. How
I think it will.
So that's November 14th is the DVD and Blu-ray release. So if you,
but you can get it now.
Yeah, you can actually pre-order now on Walmart.com and Amazon. So
available November 3rd and November 14th.
And there's still a way if you go to theblindmovie.com. There's still a way to get it to your church. You have until November 6th for that. So. If you're in a situation where that appeals to you, maybe you're a pastor or someone listening that has a church somewhere that may have not been able to see the movie, you can still do that for a little while, right, Zach? So there's that opportunity too if you want to check into that. So community.
Did I mention that? I think I mentioned this on the previous podcast too, but we became Fathoms number 1 release of all time, which is a big deal. I mean, we
actually got that as an update from a news site too, Zach. So I guess you guys did a press release or something, and So I actually got that in my email that said that same thing, that it was now number one. Of course, I thought it'll probably be short-lived because Chosen will probably take it back next year when they do season 4. But it's kind of like competing with Sadie on podcasts. It's like, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I love The Chosen. I love our movie, obviously. So I don't mind just leapfrogging those guys back and forth. That's awesome.
No, they're great guys. Dallas and those guys are great guys, and what they're doing is incredible. Yeah, but we're going to enjoy it in the window.
That's right. Well, enjoy it while you can.
And look, I mean, it's been cool because I've noticed even our podcast has grown quite a bit through the movie, and because a lot of people are like, man, I didn't even know you guys had a podcast, which is so crazy to me. But it's the way the algorithms work on Facebook and Instagram. They don't really show our entire audience what we're doing.
Yeah.
But the movie has brought a lot of attention to even this Bible study, which has been kind of full circle because this Bible study, this podcast, spurred the movie, and now the movie is bringing people to the podcast. So it's kind of interesting.
I just got a note from somebody, and I don't think I've responded to you yet, so I know you're probably listening, but that had somehow just discovered our podcast since the movie and has listened to all 700 and whatever we're up to 80 episodes in going 8 and 10 hours a day. I was like, now that's commitment. So to listen to that since the movie release, I'm impressed, and your brain must be full because we have talked a lot of Bible and told a lot of Jase stories and a lot of crazy stuff over the course of that period of time. So kudos to you for that, and I'm sure there's a few others doing that as well. So we love it. Zach, we're going to let you go and take a break, and when we come back, we got some special guests that I'm super excited about having on the podcast today with Dad and I. So, Zach's always a pleasure. We'll see you.
Who's next up?
Next
Absolutely.
up, Buddy and Bootsy Brown. So I've talked about liver health before on this podcast because my liver enzymes were high earlier this year. But I started taking this product from Get Liver Help, and my numbers are right back online, which I love it. So you may have heard about the liver health formula, not just on our show, but also on HGTV, Fox News, Newsmax, Food Network, and other places. They've already helped more than 2.6 million people with their products, including yours truly, Al. It's not surprising liver health formula is so popular. If you were to add up all the residents of Arizona, Virginia, Florida, and Texas, you would still not get the 100 million people that have sluggish, fatty liver that makes people gain weight and experience fatigue. So if you're suffering from low energy, brain fog, or unexpected extra flab, it's time to do something about it. I recommend you try Liver Health Formula. It's an all-natural supplement packed with clinically proven botanicals to help you recharge and protect your liver. So join me and countless others who are already taking steps to improve their health at getliverhelp.com/unashamed. You're also going to get a free bottle of blood sugar formula. That's a total discount of 64%, so you're saving money. Head over to our dedicated page at getliverhelp.com/unashamed to get this special offer. Welcome back. We got Buddy and Bootsy Brown here from all the way from Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right.
Yeah, which is, of course, the capital of Mississippi, and it's almost like our cousins over there. You know, you're just right
We're
down.
kind of like cousins.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We claim you guys.
I'll go with
But
that.
you're originally from Florida?
Originally from Mississippi. But when the boys got to be like 7, 8 years old, I looked at my wife. I said, is there any way we cannot raise our boys in Central Florida? And she goes, where do you want to go? I said, there's this place that's just perfect in, Madison, Mississippi. How about we go there? And now she's got more friends than I do. It's
well, and it's so good that you're so right getting out of Florida because that's where Zach and my cousins, grew up there. And they're all Gator. They're in Gainesville, so they were all Gator fans in Trenton area. And so I was like, I've lived with that Florida stuff my whole life. So you did great in getting
thank you.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
But we love Florida. It's the free red state is now what we call it, where people are going to. So Bootsy, we originally were just going to have Buddy on. He and I were talking. I wanted to have him on the podcast. But then when I heard your name was Bootsy, I was like, does your wife do a podcast too? Because with a name like Bootsy, you need to be on our podcast.
So that was my only qualification.
That was it. That's all you had to have. You could have been a
Thank
mute, and you still would have been on
Excellent.
this podcast.
come on.
You can thank my sisters. I was born with my grandmother's name, which is a beautiful name. But I was never called it.
Yeah.
There's a few stories that go around on how I went from Elizabeth to Bootsy. And the main one is I had a breathing apnea as a little baby, and I would take some pauses and I wouldn't really breathe again. So they took me to the hospital and then brought me home on with a lot of wires, like a lot of breathing wires and whatnot.
And monitors and stuff. Right, yeah.
And they had to have a little backpack with a battery if we traveled. So I was a little bit of a freak baby with all these wires coming off of me. And my sisters were 4 and 6. So they were like, that baby has a boo-boo. She's boo-boo. And somehow they wanted to shut down boo-boo like I was a mistake or something. And then
you were a little Terminator is what you were.
Apparently I was a force to be reckoned with from the very get-go. And there's a picture of me with one cowboy boot only and a diaper. I don't know. Somehow Bootsy became. So by the time I started kindergarten.
To Bootsy, and it stuck.
By the time I was in kindergarten, it was Bootsy being written on my papers.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So,
is that what?
I like to say she had 6 toes on 1 foot. You know,
stories get better as the years go
because
on.
It's a better story. You know,
it's a songwriter.
It's a side story.
Yeah,
you know, that's
you
what.
wouldn't want to go back too far in her. You're liable to run into some stuff back in here.
Yeah.
A couple of hundred years ago.
Where were you? Where are you from originally, Bootsy?
Orlando. Born and raised.
Oh, so you were from Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Used to be a small town. Orlando used to be a real small town.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
No.
It was still the South when I got down there in '91, and then about 2000, just this wave came in that you just left it unrecognizable at this point.
Oh yeah, it's
I know one thing: your governor is a decent man.
Oh yeah,
he was. Yeah, I mean he is. That guy's done
really
unbelievable stuff for the.
Yes, sir. He has.
And he's not a reflection of the state of Florida, but we're glad to have him down there.
Yeah.
State of Florida. I mean, you go down the middle of the heart of the middle. And you got just a civil war of politics going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
bet
so many people come from so many other places. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing with Florida. It's like so many other states that you've got kind of the originals, and then you've got everybody else that's coming, and so then you got that merge of politics. So red or blue become purple, and here we go. Right.
Yeah, but see, y'all are like me. Get away from all that city stuff. Was it the closer I am to the country, the further I am away from idiots?
That's exactly.
You know, and not that they're idiots. We love them, but I wanted to raise my boys on 4-wheelers and hunting and being able to own land. You can't own land in Central Florida. No. What land are you going to own down there?
Exactly right.
So we got away, and it's been no looking back.
So how many kids do y'all have?
2 boys.
2 boys. And how old are they?
Oh, they're at that age right now. God bless them if they watch this. They're 13 and 14.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
2 middle.
We might need to send them
What
down.
you say on that? God bless
I need to
them.
ask Miss Kay for some advice. I was the youngest of 3 girls. I know nothing about these boys that I live in.
We need to just loan them to Phil for some work that
All
he's
my
done.
grandchildren, when they began to get married and weddings and all that, and I'm like, is that?
Yeah.
I mean, let's look up, and I mean, it's amazing. When we get together now as a family group,
it's about 60 people.
Yeah.
Of course, we had 3 boys, with me, Jase, and Willie for the longest period of time. And then once Mom and Dad came to Christ, we had Jep, who I used to call my baby sister because he was sensitive, he was the little one. And he's still kind of sensitive when you talk to him. And then we found out we actually had a sister. We found her 4 years ago now. And so Jep's back to being a brother. But yeah, we're huge. I mean, we're like with all of our kids, we're all now our own patriarchs and matriarchs, and it's been an interesting dynamic because you realize once you get your family, your wing gets so big, you just have less time to do the things you used to do with your brothers.
So
I mean,
far, there's no divorces,
we've managed to
whole
stay
bunch.
together. That's right.
Yeah.
And do that, which I think we learned that, you guys saw the movie. So, I mean, I think we learned from Mom and Dad, what we didn't want to do. And so we figured out, okay, we need to figure out how to stick together and have Jesus number one.
Amen.
So now you guys did, Cy and Dad were on your podcast.
They were on mine.
So tell me about that experience, because
that was wild. Because I mean, I walk in the duck call room and there's talking about. First, it was Cy and I for about 30 minutes, and he's telling me war stories before it even began, like terrifying war stories. And that's the moment we meet. And but we had a great time. It was really, the video did great, and we were telling people the gospel. And then I met Phil. He gave his whole testimony, and we just got to bounce off of each other because Phil is a big reason why I started doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's been, I guess, 3 or 4 years now since I took this path. We can get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was a football player at, had a scholarship to play at UF, be a Gator.
Really?
And under Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
He calls on a block number one night, says, going to give your scholarship to a defensive back. I need him more. And I'm thinking, everybody's reported. It's 2 weeks away. We're going to 2-a-days now.
Yeah.
I've got no team. I had 12, 13 D1 scholarships to punt. My dad kicked for Mississippi State. I was thinking, maybe this is God calling me into the ministry. Maybe this is it. And I'm hard-headed. So I got to be Moses for the last 20 years, writing with God.
It took a lot of right and left turns.
A lot of right and left turns.
So you were Aaron and her into the story, right? Yeah.
So Bootsy comes in. I had her number on a phone. Do you remember those old phones where you could only have 25 numbers saved in your phones?
I remember when it was worse than that.
You had to dial.
I was in the era where
Rotary.
15 phones are given to a neighborhood, and all these old women, and when it rings for one, it rings for all of them. And you'd pick it up. Hello? She'd get out the telephone. Yeah.
It wasn't quite like that, but I was in my college dorm my freshman year at Liberty University. That's where I went.
Oh, that's where you went.
I thought I was going to go into seminary.
Yeah.
But I was deleting old numbers. Don't need that one anymore. Don't need that one anymore. And I came to Bootsy's phone number. I couldn't delete it.
I'm shocked you even had.
Couldn't delete it.
That close.
So instead of deleting it, I pick up the phone, I call her, and we hit it off.
Now, how did you have her number? Did you?
We were friends in high school.
Okay.
Nothing
Boy, that's almost a godsend.
Because
I think it's almost more than
we
that.
came back from college together. She's at Florida
What
State.
did you do? You said, Bootsy, you're not going to believe it.
I didn't delete your number.
Yeah, this is going to sound weird, but I think God's telling us we need to be together. And she had a background in communications, and she just understood the whole media side. I was, kind of leaving football at the time, playing for Mississippi State and punting for them.
So you did go to Mississippi
This
State.
would be 03, 04.
A bunch of schools.
I rode back up like a champ. The guy that was backing up ended up playing for the Raiders and winning the Ray Guy Award, which is the highest award you can win for a punter. Yeah. So I called my dad one day and said, I went to the wrong school. But then country music came along.
Mississippi State's always known for their kicking.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You better know how to punt.
I know it, exactly.
So I could always sing. I always loved Randy Travis, George Strait, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings. And so I would listen to that stuff and I said, I could do this. And so went to Nashville. She said, if you want to do this, we need to do this now. We didn't get married saying, hey, by the way, I want to do this. It was just kind of like something is pulling me in that direction. And it went great. 3 Billboard country albums, 2 number ones on iTunes for iTunes country, 400 million views. And none of that mattered because I got to the point where 3 years ago when COVID hit and all the madness broke open, I saw Phil over here talking about just laying it out there is what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I'd never spoken the name Jesus on my channel. In country music in Nashville, they get up there and they accept an award and they say, I want to thank the big man upstairs. I want to thank God, or I want to thank somebody was looking out for me up there, higher power, all those generic terms. I'd never said the name Jesus. And then it all happened. I was thinking, this is not a time to be shy about who we are.
Yeah.
I just started putting it out there. And instead of everybody leaving, which I thought everybody's just we almost got 1 million subscribers. They're going to be gone. Nobody left.
Yeah.
And it's been something I've been able to stand by and been encouraged by y'all to do without a doubt. But she's been right there making it all happen because I didn't understand how to edit videos. I didn't understand how it's supposed to look. You shoot a video with like 9 feet over your head of headspace. And
I'm a little opinionated.
It looks terrible.
Most people in
but I'm usually
communications
behind
are,
the scenes. Yes.
She's in every background going, quit slouching, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Move over that way. But it all works because now it's in my head without her if I'm going out doing my own thing.
So we're coming up on the end of the year. For Lisa and I, that's when you begin thinking about next year, you think about finances, you think about, things you want to carry over, things you want to try to pay off. One of the things that any family is always thinking about are medical bills, especially the unexpected kind, which most are, right? We've got a great sponsor of our podcast, Samaritan Ministries, that Lisa and I have joined. Now we have a Christian community to be a part of. When you have a medical need, fellow members are going to send money directly to you to help you pay your medical bills, and you'll do the same for them, also praying for them and encouraging them. There's no networks, which puts you in control of your family's health care, so you know what's best when it comes to doctors, hospitals, or treatments. You can join today, start healthcare sharing with Samaritan Ministries the day that you complete your membership application, or you can choose the month that you'd like to start. This is not insurance, it's assurance that you're part of a healthcare sharing community. Samaritan Ministries is a biblical solution to healthcare where we can bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So whether it's a broken bone, unexpected diagnosis, or other medical emergency, you'll find comfort knowing you're connected to 80,000 Christian households across the nation who stand ready to care for one another spiritually and financially during a time it's needed the most. Become part of this community today at SamaritanMinistries.org/unashamed. That's SamaritanMinistries.org/unashamed. Join today. So when you were, that's what you went to school for? I mean, how did you learn this? How did you learn to be able to do this, or was that just something you enjoyed?
TV production and all that?
Yeah, I think TV production in high school. My sisters and I always were in that program.
Yep.
So it comes naturally to me. I'm a better editor. I have no imagination, none. But I can look at something and go, that's wrong, or font bigger or sideways or this or that. So.
Which is, it's so amazing on the creative side because you have to have both roles, right? I mean, because with him, he's able to just think like a creative, but unless he has somebody that can frame it up and get it out where it's presentable, it takes both of you.
It's wonderful to work with each other.
It's pretty amazing. So y'all work together.
Joy. I'm a
Love
peach.
you too.
You've worked together the whole time you've been doing this?
Whole time.
It's been y'all doing it, which is amazing. So Lisa and I work together as well and love it because we started at Duck Commander. And then I went into ministry, and then she did some other things, and then wound up joining me there, working for another ministry, but we're still together. It was really great because I had like strict rules about meeting with women and stuff like this because I'd just seen people fall. And so I'd call her up and I'd say, hey, I got somebody coming in, come down and sit in with me. And so that's how really we started doing ministry together. It was just like listening to people's problems and stuff like that, or marriage stuff and all that. So, but now we get to travel around the country and speak together, which is pretty amazing. So, which y'all will get to meet her later. But so you did what? So you watched our show. Did you watch Duck Dynasty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So y'all were fans of that as well?
We were fans of that, and now my boys are watching it. It's like the next generation.
That's right.
It's their default to put on after school.
Yeah.
I love that. It's kind of, I tell audiences all the time, it's like Andy Griffith. Like there are people now that discover Andy Griffith, like a new generation, and that show was made 60 years ago. And so, but when some shows are worthy of being generational, and I feel like ours is as well.
Well, it displays a family dynamic that not a lot of people have right now. Not a lot of people have very involved families or generational families.
You are speaking the truth. It's tough out there.
So to even watch an example of a family on TV in your comfort zone, you can gain knowledge and you can gain life experience just by seeing it.
Well, and when we were on, Modern Family was a popular show on the broadcast, and of course it couldn't have been more different than ours. And it was interesting because someone did a study, some university, at Duck Dynasty versus Modern Family. And that was the title of the study. So it was all this analytical data about who would watch either show and why. And it was really interesting because it was speaking a lot to our culture. Corey and I were talking recently, though, and we both kind of came to this realization at the same time as in our conversation. And this is really kind of sad that our show could not be made now in 2023.
You don't think?
No venue. Like, I mean, we could do it and put it out ourselves and do something on YouTube or whatever, kind of like you guys have done. But no network would touch us anymore. Now, in 2011, they were still willing to do something like take a chance on a family like us. But just in a decade, that's how much has changed, right? That we wouldn't even get a shot to be on unless it was on Fox or someplace, that was more traditional or conservative. So it's really sad. But the audience is there. So it's not about audience; it's about something else, which is kind of what we're facing, which is sad. Yeah. Which is why we have to have your inspiration to be more vocal about who you are has to happen now across all the genres for us to be able to do what we do. That we're paving the way for people to have a family like us. Because look, there's going to be others that come along after us. We just had Kristen Sadie on the last podcast, and Dad's like, Al, this is the next generation. I said, well, Dad, looks like we're in good hands, because that's what we need is the next generation, your boys, and how they approach the future.
Yeah.
Where they're not afraid to speak Jesus.
To me, it was always, this is what a family's supposed to look like. And not that it's perfect or anything. Right. There's a million flaws. We all see that, but it's that craving that we have in our heart. I saw a video of it was an older man bringing a bunch of sausage that he made for his neighbor. And they have those Ring doorbells now that just videotape the whole,
right.
Anybody that comes, it's for security. But it captured the whole moment. He brings the sausage in and he's like, I just made this for you, hot off the grill. Just thank you for being a wonderful neighbor. And the comments, if you just read through them, it was, this kind of America doesn't exist anymore. Mm. This kind of heart, this kind of neighbor.
Yeah.
This is only something you read about. And to me, a lot of Duck Dynasty was that for me and for probably millions of people to say, man, my family's pretty screwed up, but I wish it was like this.
Right.
And if my only escape is to watch a 30-minute episode, kind of get some of that in my soul.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Yep.
I love showing, there's a picture I have that I show when Lisa and I speak, and it's the last night we filmed the show together in 2017. And it's a great shot. One of the crew members took it, and it's kind of the way they had it staged with all of us sitting around because we were filming like the clip show. The series is over, so now this is it. This is the last shot, and there's 4 generations of faith represented, and so it's a great shot. And I love showing that. You watch the audience, say, yeah, I love that family. And then I say, but you know what? Let me show you another picture of the same family, and I pop one in from 1972. That's Dad with no beard, no shirt on, Mom who's pregnant with Willie at the time, and me and Jase with our little bowl haircuts. And I was like, this 72 family could never even imagine that 2017 family because they were in such terrible place. And of course, that was the birthplace of the movie. But the reason we do that is because you're speaking to these huge audiences of people that are in some kind of degree of crisis or difficulty, or they've gone through a tough patch. And so they're like, man, if we could just be like the Robertsons, Miley, you are the Robertsons. You just hadn't gotten where God needs you to be yet. You just have to surrender. And so that becomes part of the story, So I love that the visual of those 2 pictures. So I want to ask you guys, so how did you come to faith? Were you raised up Christians, or how did you become?
We have very different stories on that.
Mm-hmm. You can go first.
You go first, Bootsy.
Okay. So we had beautiful matching dresses on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
We went on Christmas and Easter. So I was raised to respect the church, but wasn't in it all the time. We actually in high school, and that's probably why you had my number, is from that. We went to a really large high school, ended up being 8A right now, super large high school, but we had a Bible study that was just ran by a guy who had graduated from there. And it was kind of, I don't want to say the cool thing to do, but it was a thing to do. It was. Yeah. So we went to that on Thursday nights, whatever night it was. Just kind of, I don't want to say casually, but it wasn't, I, again, was the youngest of 3 girls. My sisters are wonderful and were editor-in-chief of the yearbook and homecoming queens and beautiful, wonderful, smart girls. And I thought I was going to be that. That's what I wanted to be. That was my number one, is to be what they were. And I still love them and I still admire them. But that was my goal. So It wasn't until I randomly got a message, and it wasn't, I'm not someone who usually gets messages, but I got the message, I need to go to a Christian camp for girls in North Carolina, out of the blue. So I went home and I told my mom, we need to research these camps because I'm getting a message, I need to go. And that wasn't a normal thing for me. So we start to look up camps, and I decide on a camp. I go as a camper for a few years on the summers, and then I become a counselor later. But I was there for one summer, and I got a note that I did not make the cheerleading squad that I wanted to make. Therefore, and I was not going to be on the track for leadership of yearbook. So all the things I had idolized were quickly being shut down. And it seems like not a big deal now, but as a 16, 17-year-old, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was told no by the things I really, really wanted. And I took that pretty hard, and I realized that my faith was in my achievements and the things that I sought first. So there was this bridge on the way to the chapel, and it was during our quiet time, and I sat down on that bridge, and I said, everything's done. Everything's done. It's Jesus or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where it happened for me. But
That's awesome.
After that, it was still a hard battle.
Yeah.
I still, a year to the date, actually, of that was one of my hardest times in college. So it's always been a battle to surrender and to, I can be someone who enjoys sufficiency and someone who can.
I spent 8 years being educated. Work on you get 1 degree, you get your master's. 8 years in the making. Through that 8 years, Louisiana Tech, good college. I did not hear one time the word Jesus. Oh man, not one. All that education. Mm-hmm. I look back at it now. There was no Jesus, none. That's one of the things when I came to Christ, I look back and I said, that university I attended after being educated did not say one word about the one we literally count time by.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd throw his name in, and think about you might want to check him out. He's got a story to tell. But no.
Achievements are what sell.
But however, somebody did say, Al, I think, said, but they actually put my picture on the wall somewhere over there.
So, Dad, we've seen your videos get censored a few times in the past. You had one a few years ago where you were plucking a duck, and they called it animal cruelty, even though the duck was already dead. So, the tech companies can shut you down anytime over the silliest.
There's a lot of feathers flying in every direction just to meet the world's food stuff.
That's exactly right. You got to plug them somewhere, don't you? So these tech companies can shut you down anytime over the silliest things. The folks over at Blaze have always let us say whatever we want on any of Dad's shows. And now they've launched another way to deliver content that won't get canceled or demonetized. If you go to theblaze.com right now, you'll see they've redesigned Blaze News. They've got news, opinion, analysis, lifestyle, sports, and tech commentary. But what you won't get are those annoying ads you see on other websites. All they're asking is if you find their work valuable, visit theblaze.com and subscribe to Blaze News. It's less than the cost of a cup of coffee a month to cut out the ads and invest directly in their news and commentary. If you're already a Blaze TV subscriber, the new ad-free Blaze News will be included with your Blaze TV subscription, along with Unashamed and 800 episodes of In the Woods with Phil. So check out the new site at theblaze.com. So there's, when Dad had reconnected with Bradshaw, they had a special night in 2014, and where they honored Dad and Bradshaw together on the football field. It was cool, because they had not really, other than running into each other at an airport, had not seen each other in 40 years.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden, Terry's there. He's broadcasting a game for Fox. He interviewed Dad. They did a bunch of stuff on camera, and they had this moment. But they were just visiting and catching up, and so the president of the university comes in and announces at this moment that Dad's going to be the 2014 Alumnus of the Year for Louisiana Tech, which was really cool to everybody but Dad. He doesn't care at all. And so Dad's just looking, And so, like, everybody's waiting for him to say something, and he's not saying anything. And he looks over at me and says, Al, you remember we used to catch fish on the Washita River? And I knew what was coming. And I said, yes, sir. He said, nobody from Louisiana Tech called me then about how special I was and how good I am and I deserve to be called, and now everybody's getting nervous because they're like, is this a rebuke or what? Yeah. And so Bradshaw starts slapping his leg and laughing. He said, Phil, they don't care about that. You're rich now. They just want a big fat check. That's what this is. That's why you're Alumnus of the Year.
They educated me, and 40 years later, they said,
he's a genius.
Now would be a good time to donate.
But there was no Jesus with him, so I thought, no, let me get out of here.
So what they do when you become an Alumnus of the Year in the Alumni Center, there's a wall called the Louisiana Tech Alumni Hall of Fame. And so there's a picture up there going back to 18 whatever, when they started. And each of them has a bronze picture on a plaque. And so Dad's is there. And I went down and looked at it and took a picture of it because I thought I want to, because we knew he was getting it, and I'd approved stuff about it. Dad never knew what was going on. And so I went down there to take a picture of it and look at it. And on the plaque, it says duck hunting icon, television personality, because it has like your accomplishment. And then the third one was servant of Christ.
Love it.
And which I thought, it's pretty neat. Dad never heard the name of Jesus there, but now it's hanging in the hall.
Now it is
because he was
that?
there. Yeah, which was really cool. And I have to say, Dad, I looked around. It's 150 whatever, how many years at university, and the name of Jesus is on no other plaque.
Did you request that?
Yeah, we did. I gave it.
You did?
Yeah, it was from me. No. But the thing about it was I wanted that because Dad had told this story my whole life that he never heard Jesus there. And I thought, well, servant of Christ is going. And then I didn't know if they would put it on there or not, but they did, which was really good.
To fully get a college education, I would at least throw the name of Jesus in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it.
Well, at least as a historical figure. We've talked about this before. Like there's a guy that taught me history at ULM that meets with us now, that helps Dad's class, and he taught history, and he says we never were allowed really to teach Jesus even as a historical figure in college. And I thought, well, that makes no sense because this is a guy that's had a huge. I mean, at least you have to talk about him. I mean, talk about any of the religious figures. Talk about Muhammad. I mean, these people have shaped the world.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't even deserve a mention in a history class? Come on.
It's the thing. People it's a big misconception that the South is the Bible Belt. And I stop them every time because I heard a pastor say this one time. He said, no, it's the church belt.
Yeah.
It's the church belt.
That's a great point.
We all know about, the Bible, and we know how to act Christian, or we'll show up at church and you'd never know what anybody's going through. But that was kind of how I got saved. I was 8. Mom and Dad walked me through it. Thank God.
Yep.
I had that knowledge, but I never flipped that switch. And the switch I'm talking about.
Know.
It's fork in the road.
That's it.
Do you really believe this or not?
Yep.
And I had a guy about 24. I was 18, grab a hold of me and say, this ain't, what you say you are, you ain't,
Right.
And I was thinking, what are you talking about? And, all of a sudden you start getting scared.
Yeah.
Because what the repercussions are, but it's the church belt. And I looked right, man, I had the khakis and the button-down shirt. I had the right shoes. I was in the right groups. My dad was a deacon.
Yep.
You can play the part.
Check, 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 check. What else do you need me to do? Well, how about follow what?
Yeah, a few years back, I broke the dress code.
Yeah, which we all thank you for, by the way.
Shocker. Let's take our last break. So that's when you
church belt, that dress code. It's
so is
watch that.
So is 18 when you surrender then, or was it later than that?
18, and the same Bible study Bootsy's talking about. I had a gift to play guitar, so the guy looked at me and said, "How about you come play guitar and sing a few worship songs?" Well, I'm still struggling. I'm still thinking, what I thought in my head? This would be a great opportunity to get girls.
Ooh.
Because I can play guitar.
Yeah.
And I can learn these songs.
Right.
And man, the more he just dug into me and wouldn't let go and read scripture with me and mentored me, and the more people started looking to me as, a guy who was actually pursuing that, you have two choices. I can be a hypocrite and just completely turn my back to it, or I can absolutely pursue this. And I got on fire for the Lord. And it was all legit after that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I was just walking, I was talking the talk for those 10 years. I didn't know that's what it was.
I tell them quite often, every once in a while, they'll say, so how will people know that I'm saved? How will I really know? I said, well, kind of do start with simple things. I said, make sure, and I said, I'm trying to remember the last time I said a curse word. I used a curse word. I said, it's been 30 or 40 years, so far back. I said, just start with your mouth. So,
yeah.
They're like.
And as a parent of middle schoolers, the mouth can be real tricky.
It can be. So look, because I want our audience to hear about the music business and what you guys are doing, because I think it's phenomenal. And I was saying, buddy, that, and of course, an old guy like me, I compared you to a newer version of Ray Stevens, because your stuff is really good, and some of it's funny, but some of it's, it speaks to culture in a powerful way. So I've loved what I've discovered about you, which is why I want to contact you. I want to be on the podcast. But tell a little bit about how you did what you're doing, because you're kind of non-traditional. I'm assuming. I don't know much about the music business, but I know you guys are out there with a huge following of people. But you don't seem like you're part of these like other people I've met in Nashville that seem to be kind of systemized. So I don't know. It seems different, but I don't. You tell us.
You know what I'm going to say? Yeah, there was a breaking point where I'm just writing songs I think people are going to like, and then maybe one day you should actually say something. What are you going to leave as your legacy? And I wrote a song that was, political. I guess people see it as political. I think it's just common sense is what it really is. And my producer called me the night before and said, I don't think you should do that song. We're recording in Nashville the next morning. These players might walk out. They might be, because it was taken just more of a godly, just in a hardcore, like family, country, guns and this and that. And
you were speaking to your audience, by the way.
It was.
Apparently so. It did well.
He said it might be too much. Yeah. And I made that decision. And we had all the right agents in Nashville. We had all the right things, lined up. The right agents, I know you're shaking your head, to get you to where the right, the record label and we've toured with some of the biggest acts in country music. But once you see that lifestyle, you look around and you go,
this isn't it.
Do I want to be up at 3 a.m. with all these women and all these drugs and all of the watching my buddies I was touring with, who are very well-known national acts, taking uppers to wake up in the morning, taking downers to go to sleep, and just not really having any ambition past 35.
Not a good path to be on.
Every time we tried to have a success in that route, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like God was in it, that was our path.
Yeah, so I called my son called. I was 7 or 8 states away on a concert, and he called and he wanted a bedtime story at 9:00 at night. I'm thinking, what am I doing? Is this all for me, or is this? Yeah, I can sing, I can write. We've had some big hits, but is this really me? And it was like I told you in my wilderness episode. Well, what do you want from me, Lord? Because then I started speaking on political nature things.
Yep.
And as much as those videos blew up, I still didn't feel like that was right. That was it. It never shifted gears until I opened up the possibility of talking about our Lord. And it's, like I said, nobody left. And so I want to be an encouragement to anybody who's listening to this. You think people are going to disown you or turn your back. And even if they do, I mean, if you stick to your guns at the end of the day, and that's who you are and what you're supposed to do, you're going to feel way better than you ever did trying to play this fake character of playing it safe with everybody you meet.
Well
Just dive in there, man.
Well said.
And we're similar to you guys. We
immortality is riding on it.
Just a little bit of a big deal.
And that's what we're on a platform that obviously is a political platform as its genesis, and some really great voices out there that are part of that. But we decided, along with the people that, are the head of our network and what we're doing on Blaze, that we need somebody that's willing to go upstream of politics, upstream of all culture, and speak truth into it. Right. And that's really, because we know that's the game changer. I mean, that's the unifier. The only way we're ever going to unify the country is if more people know about Jesus than don't. And so we're like that too. That's been our discovery. We'll talk about politics, of course, because we're here, we're engaged, we're involved, and we have opinions about that. But we know that the book is going to be the one that's going to make the ultimate difference. So, and yet at the same time, like you guys, we know that part of the reason people love us is because we're entertaining and we can tell stories. And in your case, you can sing songs and tell stories that way.
That gets you in the door.
It opens the door.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, the whole world of internet evolved during this time too. Like when we first started, YouTube was a website and you had to go to your desktop.
That reminds me, I never have owned a.
You don't have a cell
I don't
phone?
own one.
I'm
wonder
sure
what
some
it's
people
like.
around here
I see
have some
people, they're looking at it, but I
So,
said,
Dad, when you hear the words YouTube, what does that mean to you? What does that bring out?
like,
It's basically an appendage for the next
someone said,
generation.
well,
Like,
how do
it's
you
gonna grow.
function inside a world with these things?
Here's the beautiful thing, though.
I said, I hear there's some funky stuff on that thing. I don't know for sure.
When Phil always talks about living in computer land, or that stuff is going out to computer
I've
land.
heard it's funky, but
Yeah.
I never have actually seen it.
But what a blessing you've been to people like me in computer land.
That's right.
You know, you can't make fun of it anymore.
That's right.
Well, the thing is now, y'all can go into people's living rooms. It used to be such an event to go, and now you can be friends with lots of people just being authentic to who you are. It doesn't have to have committees and boards and approval.
Plus, without the little black box podcast, couldn't get it out. This is a way to get the gospel preached quickly, way faster. And that's why I told we were flying along somewhere, and I said, Al, you and Zach come in here a minute. So I said, y'all need to get this thing on that little black box. I said, I'm not coming on it, but I said, I want it to get out there. But looking back, Al, that was a good move to take.
Well, Buddy was impacted by it, so yeah, that's exactly right.
There's millions you will never meet that will tell you I've been unbelievably impacted by it.
Right, which is great because the beautiful thing, people ask me all the time, what's the best part about, doing a show and all this stuff we've been able to do? And I always say the people we meet, they were impacted in a positive way. I mean, when I run across them, just like when you and I first talked, it's like, man, you realize that God used you without you. You're just doing what he's called you to do. And you guys are doing the same thing, which is fun. And you get to meet those people along the journey, which is fantastic because you share that.
Every week, one day out of the week, I'm in a location. We tell them where we'll be. They want to come down here and all that. I said, just be there at 9 o'clock, and we preach the gospel. But you wouldn't believe how many people have been born again from that one little. They come in there. Where are you from? Canada. Where are you from? Samoa. Where are you from? I said, New York City. I said, is that where you come from?
New York City.
Can anything good?
California.
Can anything good come from New York?
Is that north of Charleston?
So unlike a lot of people, we have been very open to still having direct contact with people. And, we're going to meet anyway at our church. And Dad's going to be teaching his class. And when I'm in town, I'm going to be preaching.
We're over on the side. They won't let us in the big one.
Oh, no, we got to keep Dad in the outer regions. Yeah, you can't get him in the mainstream. But we just come on. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to be a part of your spiritual journey. So it is unique for sure. So tell folks, because we're out of time, but tell folks where can they get to find out about you guys?
We're just Buddy Brown on YouTube, and this pretty girl's
Not much will
behind
show
all
up
that.
if you Google me.
You call it Buddy Brown?
It's just Buddy Brown, yeah.
Buddy
I
Brown.
Googled you a lot of stuff.
I like it.
We do a show called Backwoods Wisdom.
Yeah.
It's out in the woods.
It's usually him in a side-by-side.
I can't listen to nobody in a three-piece suit telling me about the world. I want to hear it from somebody like me with some dirt underneath his fingernails. And,
Yeah.
When I first started watching you, I thought of Chad Prather because he used to do it with his dog in the truck. Yeah, and so you're in the ATV, which is good. So we're going to do overtime. I hope you guys can stay over with us. We do a few bonus minutes, and we'll talk a little bit more to these guys. But we appreciate having Buddy and Bootsy on
You
the
said it
podcast.
right.
I said it right.
Hey.
Yeah, I did it right.
I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by rating us on iTunes. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube, and be sure to click that little bell to get notified about new episodes. And for even more content that you won't get anywhere else, subscribe to Blaze TV at blazetv.com/unashamed.